Welcome to the Tech Aunties. We're live today from the Capital Factory at South by Southwest. And today we have a very entertaining guest with some very interesting insights to share. I'm Marian Newsom.
And I'm Gina Rosenthal. I'm the CEO of Digital Sunshine Solutions. And here with us today is Andrea Kalmans. Do you want to introduce yourself, please, ma'am?
Well, first of all, this is very fun to be here. I'm an Austin resident. And I've also been a mentor at Capital Factory and an investor in Capital Factory companies for many years. And so I feel very at home. I've also been a great friend of Gina's and a great admirer of Gina's since we've been working together at a company called akin, which I'm on the board of, and Gina has been very involved with for more than a half a dozen years. And I am an Austin investor and citizen and mom of two and wife and the co-founder of Launcher Ventures. And so this is very, very fun for me to be here today.
We are so happy to have you here today.
All right.
So we're going to ask you about we want to ask you about your work, especially as a investor in that. Mm-hmm. But what we've been doing with all of our participants this week is asking them about our name. And so we're the Tech Aunties, and we can explain why we chose the name in a minute. But we've been asking everybody, does aunties have any significance to you? Does it bring up any feelings for you?
You want to know the truth?
Yes.
I honestly hate the name. And I literally called our mutual friend and I was like, do I want to be a tech auntie? And he said, yeah, of course you do. I want to be I am a proud aunt. And I'm a really good aunt. In fact, one of my nieces forgot her passport in her UT dorm room yesterday, and I went and got it and shipped it. So that's what aunties do. So I'm very proud and happy to be that title. But professionally, as a female, I'm in a world where everyone is young, everyone is brilliant. The more you hang out with other investors, it seems like everyone's rich. Everyone's thin. I know, I'm joking. I mean, I'm very, very, very comfortable in my own skin.
Of course.
But, and I do absolutely love, and one of the greatest things that I ever did was bring my kids to so many different events. They're now 18 and 20 in college, and they know about every investment that we've ever made. But there's this very funny balance that we have. And it's funny that I don't like being called an auntie, but yet at the same time, I very much bring my whole self and my personal self into my investing. But there are some people who may not always be the smartest people who think that if you bring your whole self in, that means that you're not also a professional. Mm-hmm. And so one of the things that's very important to me in this next decades, as I, scale my investing and really continue to invest, I've been doing it for a decade and I have every intention to keep going many more decades. I want to be an investor. I don't want to be a networker. I don't want to be a community advocate. I want to be a finance executive. Yeah. And so there's a perception that I want to be fun because I am fun, right? But I also want to be serious and I want to be accountable and all those things.
I like it. I totally get what you're saying.
Yeah.
I think when it came up, when we started thinking about, doing a podcast and this is, this podcast is over a year old at this point.
No, I'm very excited to be here, by the way.
So one of the reasons why is I've got a bunch of guy friends and I came up through enterprise infrastructure world, which is definitely male dominated. I came up through East Coast, kind of thing. So it's very much you're on point and you act a certain way and you be a certain way. And it frustrated me because there were so many parts of me that I couldn't bring, the creative parts. And then sometimes I was just blocked because of my gender. It just is what it is.
Right.
And I'm such a force. People call me a force of nature a lot.
You are a force of nature.
Yes. I don't know that my gender has ever held me back.
Nothing holds you back. Huh?
But it may just be, and I've also, my husband and I have discussed a lot. I don't know that I've ever had anyone do anything inappropriate to me, but I'm also the last person you would pick with. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly, I do. Well, so my friends have a podcast and they're a little bit more experienced than I am, all guys, and they call themselves the Graybeards.
Yes, you said
And they are awesome, and I love listening to them, and they're just great content. But their content they share is based on their years and years of experience, and they can call back to using mainframes and all of this. But I tell them, like, they're like, well, you can be a graybeard. I'm like, no, we get rid of graybeards. We don't keep graybeards.
It's like a worst nightmare.
So we started talking about, like, because what I want to do is a bit different than you're looking at the next decades. I want to be able to look at the younger people that are coming in to the tech industry and to the market, to be able to market and write and talk about the tech industry. And they're so brilliant already, and they're so up here with their expectations and their energy that they're bringing into the room. And I just want them to stay up there, bring that and keep going. You know, I took it to a certain place, but then you get like weighed down with responsibilities and you get the drag of the work. So that's kind of, and you have your own version
Yeah,
of
so for
auntie.
me, when I think about aunties, they're trusted advisors, people I go to who will keep me grounded and also inspire me and be my greatest cheerleaders.
And this is interesting. So, because in a lot of the circles that I hang out in, I'm way old. I'm 48 and I'm way old, especially, I'll spend a lot of time with Bitcoin people, crypto people, AI people. And so 48 is,
Right.
So there's like this group of people, and there's people who aren't in tech, but they're the Barbara Corcorans or the Iris Apfels, where the older they got, the Jane Fondas, the older they get, the more fabulous they become.
Right.
And like, I kind of love the idea of becoming, and then there's like Mike Novogratz at Galaxy, who's like the oldest guy in crypto, or like, let's think about someone in enterprise software. They're relishing it. And I kind of love that, So those are just cultural references of people who I'm like, okay, I can be like that.
Well, let's talk about how you got here.
Yeah.
So I really have not heard your intro to investing. So
This is so funny because I feel like this is the most boring question ever, but everyone always asks it. So let's roll.
I haven't heard it, so I need to hear it.
I was a fabulous student. I rocked my way through college, Phi Beta Kappa. I always did everything very linearly, and I achieved at a level of success. I always got A's, and so I did everything very by the book. I went to college, did fabulously, went to New York City and became an investment banker at Solomon Smith Barney. Then immediately wanted to go back for my MBA because that's what people did. And I worked with some startups during grad school, but I went to Dell as a product management person.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that
You
you were
didn't know
Dell.
that?
No.
And I always wanted to invest. And I really think that was part of my upbringing. Just culturally, like they used to tell me when I was a little kid that my great grandmother, when they came from Romania to North Dakota for land and a donkey, she was the one who ran the general store. It wasn't Uncle Benny. Like there's always been sort of force of nature women in my family running things. And I always knew, Jews, who weren't as educated behind me. My grandparents were Holocaust survivors. They didn't have education. So they became entrepreneurs because that was what everyone did, a necessity, and were very successful in doing that, rebuilding.
Right.
And so I think entrepreneurship has always been sort of my path. The interesting part about life is when you start to get off of a linear path and start to do something so new and different that's scary and also very rewarding. And so in 2008, Dell was doing voluntary leaves. My son Hudson was in kindergarten and Sabrina was maybe in first grade. And I said to my husband, Walter, who's my co-founder, I said, if I don't take this now, I'll never take this. And so the Dell gave me $72,000 to leave, which was fabulous at the time.
That's a good one.
That was a good one, 2008. And I said, see ya. And
what good timing for you, too.
It was great timing. And it was great timing. But the thing that's so interesting when you first leave corporate America and when you were good is like like vendors liked me always. So when I was at Solomon Smith Barney and I was at Dell, I was very responsive. I was on my business. I wanted to do the best things. So everyone would call me back and take me to dinner and take me to CES. And I felt like really important, you know? All of a sudden you go from corporate America to yourself.
Right, right.
And, you know, as my husband says, no one has to call you back.
Yeah.
You have to figure out what's going to happen.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's a really, really wild transition. And so the first couple of years, I tried to be a consultant a little bit, and I wasn't that good. I wasn't good at it. Walter's great at it. I wasn't that good at it, but I love startups. And so Techstars, which is sad that they've exited Austin, came to Austin in 2014. And, you know, Capital Factory was already here. And I started mentoring my first cohorts, and I invested in that first group called Atlas Wearables, which later sold to Peloton and Peter Lee. Hopefully, Peter, hear me. You need to get on your next startup because I'm ready to invest. And I just one by one. And that's the thing that's so amazing about people ask me about angel investing. And I came from a finance background. So I knew one that understands risks I was taking. I didn't understand as much as I do today about the VC market or the funding environment, but I was comfortable with money and finances. And then, you know, all of a sudden you get a cadence and you start rolling, really, really rolling, and none of it is linear anymore. And the best thing that a person can do is sort of kind of free themselves from having to like go up a road, you know. And you know, my husband Walter, he you know does big pharma consulting, and so he was the person who had really paid the cash flow to pay for St. Andrew's private school. And so now that they're in college and out and not paying those bills, he feels that, you know, those are weights, you know, having a mortgage, having private school tuition, all those things hold you back. And I'm very, very, very grateful and lucky to have a partner who was so excited about this. Yes.
So tell me, talking about exciting, that's an amazing story. Thank you for sharing it. It's not boring at all, by the way.
It's so funny because I think it's like the most boring. I'm like always like, why would anyone want to hear?
It's so interesting. Is it interesting, right?
It is. It is.
It's not just me. But so let's bring it back to our focus this week is AI. And so AI could be one part of this answer. So I'll just kind of want to make it really broad so you answer what you think. But like everything, and we've talked about this before, everything's changing in the world of technology.
Is changing so fast.
And everything around it is changing so fast. So what are you seeing? What's interesting you enough to say, yeah, I'm gonna bet on that. And that is it AI? Is it blockchain? Is it I'm trying to think what else. I know you're interested in something else.
Crypto.
Yeah, blockchain.
Crypto, always crypto.
The world of AI, I think of everything as an evolution. And I think it's interesting that people think that AI was discovered this summer. And look at this! Oh my God!
Yeah.
And you know, we have all been, and this is one of the things where age really does help us, because you know we have all seen cycles where, you know, when we were kids and we were coming, you know, I remember when my dad brought home an Apple IIe and put it on the table and was like, kids, this is going to be big. And we had no idea what to do with that. You know, we're just like, okay, Dad. And we had like did pixels. And so it's been happening. So like when people are like, oh my God, AI is here, I think it's all been happening. Well, first we had the personal PC and then we had the internet. And like, I remember when I was in college and like the first year I didn't have a laptop in my dorm room, but then, and the memory was so small at that time. Remember those discs that were like thicker discs?
Yeah.
And I would take them into the labs. And like, it was a big deal to email our reports to our professors and our partners and our colleagues. And then I went to New York, and this is so funny. And I think actually do this, you know, I would work for managing directors who would go home And then we would stay and work in PowerPoints. And then at the end of the day, instead of being able to email it, we would send it to the print shop. They would print
Right.
it, put
I
us in a
remember
black
those days.
car to send it
Mhm.
up to their apartment so that they could make edits before the morning. And look at her face. She's like, you're not even kidding me. So like, and then, the GPU started coming. The GPU is not new, and gamers knew about it because they've
Right.
been doing
Right.
incredible things. And so all of these things are, it's all just evolved, right? And so like AI did not get invented this summer. It's all been just kind of inevitable steps forward, which I like. If you can see that and you're like, oh my God, like our connectivity is amazing now. Our access to data is amazing. We stream anything, anywhere, all the time. So once we think about that, you're like, okay, this is just the new beginning of a next cycle.
Well, let me ask you, because we've talked about hype a lot
Mhm.
this week, and just the whole idea of, and had a lot of questions and a very diverse audience, from people that are extreme experts to people that are just trying to decipher what's going on. It's like, you're saying AI was discovered this year, but really all anyone's talking about is generative AI.
Generative
Right?
AI.
There's so many other
Well,
things
and
that
it
are
is
out there.
exciting when people do their first OpenAI question and they get it back and they're like, oh my God, that worked. No, it is very exciting. And you send it. It's like when that people got the iPhones, or people got, like, those of us who sort of understood what was coming were like, yes, of course it's coming. But then when you see it in reality, it's really powerful. I mean, I guess I think of it like, I feel like it's like the internet, or like sensors on things. It's like another really big thing that's going to come into our ecosystem, and will become like us. Like, we'll of course use it. Like, we of course use the internet as a way to communicate and a way to have commerce. Um, I think every single startup that I invest in or that I spend time with has some sort of AI.
Really?
Everybody. But that's not new. That's been
Right.
going on for years and years and
Right.
years.
Because we even had audience members that had been working with it since 1971.
Well,
So,
yeah, that's, I think, the
yeah.
most amazing thing is when you talk to like academics who are like, are you kidding me? What about the AI things
Right.
of the 80s?
Right.
Yeah. So, I mean, will it have an unbelievable impact? Of course it will. Will it change how we work, what kind of jobs we have? Of course it will. But it's part of this entire shift that we've been having as a society where everything is changing. You know what I'm saying?
So is that, if all of the current companies you're working with have AI that they're working
There's
with,
some strategy.
or some strategy, would you be worried if you went to talk to a new company to invest in if they didn't have?
I mean, depending on what they're doing, but like everyone that I talk to, they always have huge data. They're always capturing some sort of huge data. Whether they're making models to be able to predict, to visually predict how something is going to happen. Or, I mean, everybody, because like all the robotics companies I see all have AI as part of them. And like some of them, it's very preliminary. They'll like joke with me. They're like, this is just beginning AI. And they're like, you're just getting your feeling. You're just getting your feet wet. But the most important thing is knowing that we know this is coming. Is how do we protect privacy? How do we make sure people understand, the risks of these things? And I'm not necessarily regulating. I'm just suggesting that people need to be educated on what is coming and what we should do to protect ourselves.
There seems to be a lot coming. Well, not so much coming. I think it's just maybe the race to get a product out the door seems to be interesting. I mean, we talked this morning. We did a live broadcast this morning and talked about there's a lawsuit that they're bringing against Microsoft and OpenAI.
For the New York Times?
No, this is
So not only the New York Times, I saw that story too, but there is a class action lawsuit about the terms of services that people gave consent to 10 years ago, and that data was used.
Well, that's what consumers need to be very smart about what we're signing. But then also there's an
Right.
entire field of regulation that's going to come to bear here. And it's going to be super interesting. And yeah,
You
I'm
think it'll be a
super
good
excited.
thing or it'll be a slowdown thing?
I'm super excited about it. I generally, as long as we have clear regulation,
Yeah.
the blockchain and crypto people tend to get frustrated because there's not things are not as clear as people would like. I mean, nobody wants to be overly regulated, but
Right.
if we all want what's best for society and we just want rules.
Yeah.
Right.
So do you think we had this, we followed up on this
Yeah,
discussion
yeah.
too. We're going to go to try to find some legislatures to actually talk to on the podcast. But do you think it's because, do you think the government officials need some help
Oh,
understanding the
100%,
technology?
100%. I don't think that. Yeah, I think that it's all happening really quickly, and these are new issues that are coming to their stabs. And like, so yeah, no, and if we're not careful, I was just reading, everyone's reading this week, Chris Dixon's book, Read Right. What's it?
What book is it? Not on there.
Chris Dixon. Okay, Gina's not reading it. Let's get her a copy. It's in my purse. We can pull it up. But if we're not careful, big tech will win. And, we need to be careful to make sure that we, would do what's right for
For
everybody.
society.
Yeah, for
Right.
society. Yeah.
Right.
I totally agree with that.
Mhm.
All right. I have another question in case the audience doesn't have one. Can we open up to the audience?
I would love that so much. This is great.
Does anybody have something they would like to ask Andrea? Oh, we got the shy audience
Oh, I
today.
hate it.
All right. Well, I'll ask you another question then. So when you look at your investments that you have right now, what's your favorite one?
I don't
will that get
have
you in trouble?
favorite.
You don't
I
have
don't
things
have
like your
favorite.
children?
First of all, I do like the way I'm like, I have Sabrina, she's 20, Hudson, he's 18. I love them both differently.
Of course, I totally
Sabrina's
understand
a
it.
comedian, Hudson's a math major.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's interesting. That's interesting.
No, so I got a right brain and a left brain. Okay. Who do I?
What's the most interesting one right now?
Okay, here. Well, the thing that everybody wants to hear is there's a lot of ways. If you were just going to talk straight up financials, the thing that my husband has learned is that monetizing angel investing takes a lot of years, and nobody on Twitter ever says that. Okay, it's like we're in 10 years, and I have things that die very quickly. Things that are sort of okay sell to PE shops and they're sort of fine. And the best ones keep running. And that's great because they're keeping running, but they're not liquid yet. So you never say that they're success until like they're liquid. And a lot of these things are not liquid. And no one will ever tell you that on Twitter. They make it
I've
sound
never
like
heard that.
18 months.
Right. Right.
But do you like that about like it almost is like
I like it. I feel very sad. It's very funny because I feel very sad when things sell because it's like, even though it's fabulous. Yes. Yeah. So I have had great successes. Yeah. And I've had 5 different exits. The thing that's interesting, and I know that there's lots of emotions about digital assets, aka crypto. The thing that's interesting about that from a liquidity perspective is those become liquid the fastest. And so you can count your returns the fastest there. Yes. And then what was your question?
I think that was my question. Which one did you?
Oh, what
I
was
asked you
my
your favorite, but you didn't want to answer me.
No. I have like favorite buckets. Okay. I love enterprise security. I think that's one of the places where I've been extremely successful. One of the companies that I'm with should have an IPO in the next couple of years, which would be amazing. I think that's a really important space. I think that as I get older and I send my kids out into the world, the idea like social impact becomes more. So I'm really interested in space at the moment.
Oh,
Okay.
And like,
Okay.
because you know that they're saying that like all of the pollutions and manufacturing that we do on Earth, we should be doing in space.
We should be doing it in
Yeah,
space?
no, yeah, because then protect our Earth and do it.
Okay.
And so, like, I'm an investor in a company called Orbit Fab, which has refueling for satellites. You know, and Gina and I work together in a company called Racken, which, you know, might seem to some fairly basic, but we keep the data centers running for the Fortune 500. Like, we never go down. And it is the fact that they can respond to demand with elasticity is unbelievable, and they're going to be ready for this AI surges. 100% excited about that. So like when a business is exciting, I'm excited. You know, like, and so there's no favorite. I'll tell you, it gets sad when companies just aren't. It's fun to win.
Yeah, of course.
And it's fun to work hard to win, you know,
Yes,
and it's
yes.
hard when I think I get more sad when companies just start spinning.
Right.
I
Did
think
you have a question?
Yes, I'm very interested in what your thoughts are on artificial general intelligence, to have truly human level, human-like learning and reasoning. Because at the moment, the field of AI is really just generative
Bots.
AI.
Yeah, it's like
It's
little
generative
things.
AI.
Yeah.
And I think there's a general consensus that LLMs are not going to get us to AGI, to true
Uh-huh.
human level intelligence. What are your thoughts on that?
First of all, I'm not nearly an expert enough to have enough to say. Like, when I spent a lot of time at UT, and I spent a lot of time in the UT robotics labs. I think that the people who know tell me that some things are still far away. And they're, a little bit skeptical of like the full walking type robots. I don't know enough to be able to give you an informed decision there. I mean, I think it's little steps at a time. I guess I just feel like everything builds,
That's
right?
the same thing you're talking about in the
Yeah,
beginning, the
before, yeah.
cycles, right?
Yeah. And I don't think we're hype. I mean, I just think that we just need to be cognizant of the fact that, I mean, I'm sure we were hyped, but we just need to be cognizant of the fact that everything builds, and every 5 years, and things are happening really fast.
They are. So I think it's interesting that you talk about you were reading a book that I need to read.
Yeah.
You're
I know
at,
you handed it to me. It's in my purse. Yeah, we'll grab it.
we'll look at it later. And so you go to UT and you talk to all the smart people. So like, what are some of the other things you do? Because you're investing in cutting edge companies. You have to make these decisions. Like, I like the people could charm you and give you lots of hype.
Right.
How do you get over the hype to say, this one, I believe in this one, and I think I have advice to give them. I can,
Yeah.
help them along the way. How do you do that?
There are people you connect with, founders that are really special. As well, one of the things that becomes really neat the more you do anything is the more of a reputation you become. And as a result of that, like, I now get invited to Y Combinator demo day. It's virtual, but like, you have to invest in a company to get that invite. And a lot of it is the more you do, the more opportunities you get and the more friends you have. Like the check that I wrote this morning, my friend knew the founder. And, I think mine is very much about having interest areas of things that I find fascinating, being in some of the right places, and then being willing to act quickly. One of the things that's very interesting about being an angel, knowing that you're going to write 3 to 5 checks a year, is when you see it, you can move. Like you don't have Walter is my investment committee. Things can move fast, and so I can jump on opportunities. But the most important thing is to really be important is there's a lot of angels who they write like 5 checks the minute they start, and then they're out of dry powder. The minute you're out of dry powder, you're irrelevant.
So you have to have.
You have to have
Have to be fluent.
consistency. You don't want to go crazy.
But I think the thing about it is like it sounds like you put in the work. So you're reading, you're talking to the experts. And thank goodness we have such a great university here in Austin with such a good scientific background where the experts are there. You do the networking.
Yeah, and
So that
the more you network, the more when you learn about opportunities, you have someone to call and say, "Is this ridiculous or is this good?" Like you have to be able to have a network of people who will tell you the truth. And so,
Exactly.
yeah,
That's
I
a
mean
hard
that's
thing
with
to find.
anything in
Exactly.
life. Yeah, and I'm very fortunate to have people who are like. I mean, my daughter told me the other day, I was telling her about something. She's like, sounds too good to be true, Mom.
And that's the comedian.
Yeah, that's the comedian. She's like, sounds good, but that's not going to work. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's pretty good. So, okay. So what's next for you then? So like,
I want more.
okay.
I'm very it's actually very, very weird. So Walter's has a lot of friends who are approaching 60. He's 9 years older than me. So I'm 48. He's 57. And they're like talking about like how to wind down, do something. And that just sounds so terrifying. Yeah. I don't even feel like I've started yet.
Oh, wow.
I really don't. I feel like, there's like very important times in life and like you have kids, which is awesome. And I love them. And I love being a mom and I can't wait to pick up grandchildren from preschool. I'm going to be so good at that. I was
No pressure.
no pressure. But like, I think that there are but there's like this years now where like we can do so many great things and I feel so healthy and energized and I just want to do all of it.
Are you happy you're in Austin? Do you think
I'm
that's an
happy I'm in
advantage?
Austin. I love it, Austin. I never want to be the person who's like, oh, Austin's not as good as it used to be. It's changed. And I just paid $30 for parking across the street.
Right. Right.
I know, right?
It is
Yeah.
South by now.
Yeah.
No, right? And
They were charging 20
I
yesterday.
didn't need 6 hours, but I didn't want to be late for you.
Oh,
So
thank you.
I mean, so there are some things that are ridiculous about this city, like $30 parking, but I benefit, my family benefits by like all the things that are happening here tends on a net to really benefit.
I feel like, do you feel like, I feel like things have changed since
They've
the pandemic?
changed.
Well, no, I'm talking about the tech scene. Since the pandemic, it's changed so much that there's so many more people. There's so much more
many new
opportunity now.
people, so many more opportunities. I mean, with it, obviously, like the school my kids went to, which is fabulous and wonderful. But when we applied, you never thought like, what's your plan B or C? You just
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Now, like
Yeah.
parents are like stressing out, like it's
Right.
New York City.
Right. Right.
So, I mean, with change, but like I never want to be a person who's like, oh, you should have seen it before.
Yeah, I feel like it's a lot like San Francisco used to be in the really early days.
Maybe.
Yeah. So like the amount of people and the amount of meetups and the amount of
Yeah. And now that we don't all have to be at a place from 9 to 5, like the roads,
That's
we're
true,
okay.
too.
That's true.
And
That's
like,
true.
yeah.
Well, I don't know. I live closer to town than you. I don't know if I would say that or agree with that. The roads are pretty bad.
No, like if you can go at like a weird time.
Yes, if you go at a weird time,
If you
it's
can
good.
go at a weird time, you're fine. Yeah, no. But like Austin has treated my family very well. And there's a lot of people in this town who still know nothing about tech and love it. And
That's true.
it's good to have a
That's true.
mix of citizens. I do worry. My number one worry is I don't want to live in a town where teachers and nurses and people who do very important work can't afford to live.
I
Right.
agree there.
But like, I hope that like we still have like when you drive, like when my kids were little, we would like drive to swim meets and stuff.
Uh-huh.
And sometimes you go to Pflugerville, sometimes you go to Cedar Park, sometimes you go to Lakeway. I mean, Texas is real big. So hopefully there's
enough room to figure
hopefully there's
something
enough
out.
room for everybody.
I think, there's so many smart people here. I really hope they can get it together and figure it out. I hope they can make it happen.
Seems like we're more under control with Kirk Watson. I don't know if we are or not, but we feels a little bit more.
We'll
under
see how it
control.
goes. We shall see how it goes. So what's next for you then?
Today or in life or
Yeah, I know that's a big question. Let's say in life.
oh well, okay.
Well, especially your life with investing. Like how do you see the
I
the
think you
landscape?
know what's very interesting. The older I get, and my husband was laughing at
rubbing our
me.
hands like,
I'm tending to get a little bit further afield. Like like everyone says like, oh, Austin's known for enterprise software. It's a proven way to make money. I'm not so sure that that is anymore. I
Really?
think that everyone always says, oh, there's a playbook. It's easy. No, I think that the more people are willing to take risks to do interesting things, and there's so much DoD money at the moment and NSF money and everything, that I've just been so intrigued by, like, the government has these programs where if the like military will give you X if you can get private money of X. And so those have been really important, and like there's some really, 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 like, there's real problems in the world that we can solve with these public-private partnerships and stuff. So I'm very, very excited about that. And I'm starting to see the world in like bigger, like I have one investment where it's robotics for fish. And so like my daughter watched this YouTube video a billion times after I told her I was investing. So the fish come in off the boat, and instead of like cutting the head, which blood can go in the body and make it start to decay, they use a robot. So it's a clean cut. So the fish stay fresh 2 weeks long or 10 days longer. And you know, there's a third less fishing. So all of a sudden you're like protecting oceans using robotics. And you're like,
That's pretty cool.
and like, how can you not?
Yeah.
And so like that kind of becomes like, we're using robotics, we're saving the ocean, we're making less food waste. Like,
Yeah. That's pretty amazing.
and I do also think that in this weird political time, I don't know how to do politics, and I'm not really all that great at nonprofits. So I feel like one of the places where I can make an impact is through my investing. Like, I know how to do that. That's where I feel comfortable.
You can help the people that do know how to
do that. That's how I do. Like, I'm not great at nonprofit meetings. I talk a lot.
That's not their thing.
So we all have our way of participating in the world.
Right.
Well, I think we're going to have to wrap it up here.
Well, thank you.
So thank you so much.
First of all, I just want to say thank you to you both for having me.
We're so happy to have you.
Southwest 2024.
We needed your energy.
Great. AI. I want to talk about it as a path for opportunity, but we have to be cautious, you know. And I just want to keep doing more of what we're doing.
Where can people find you if they want to connect with you?
Kalmans on Twitter all day long. I just tweeted this before I came in. If it didn't happen on Twitter, I don't know about it.
That's not true. You knew about this, and I'm not on Twitter.
Thank you all.
And did you want to say anything in closing?
Thank you so much. It really was inspiring for me too, because I'm also going through a transition. So thank you for coming and sharing.
Opportunities.
Thank
they're
you
hard,
so
but
much.
they're opportunities, right?
Yes, they are.
Thank you for coming. I love you. You know that. And thank you for joining us on the Tech Aunties podcast. And we'll see you again soon.
Thank you.